All right, Stace, we're going to have a conversation today about your comeback. And we're doing this because our company has had its own version of I guess we might call it like a digital comeback. We've been here in the background doing our work for years, but we purposely took a break from social media and marketing to really figure out and put language around who we are and the work we do. And for our first relaunch of our monthly email, we wanted to have one of our team members tell a personal comeback story. And so what I know about your story is that it is a story about coming back to self. And is that how you would classify, like, what would be the newspaper headline of the story that we're about to talk through?
That's what I would say now. I'm not sure I knew that then when I made these decisions that we're going to talk about, but my headline now would be Courageous Efforts by Stacy to Come Back to Self.
Love it. Love it. Okay. So I want to start like down at the beginning or the end, but I want to start in the middle. And I want you to talk to us about maybe the time in your life when you might not even have known it then, but you can look back on it now and realize, oh, that was the point that I was farthest away from self. Like if self is here, I was way over here. Can you talk a little bit about either that time in your life generally, or like a specific memory you have that is a symbol of that time for you?
Yes, I can, because I think that those realizations of that feeling is what led me on this journey of making this ultimate decision that I made. So I think when I was most disconnected from self, the only way I can think about describing it is like floating in my life, right? So I wasn't grounded. I was like drifting, but drifting at a pace that you can't even see, like so quickly in my life, right? I was rapid speeding through work and connecting with children, which didn't look like connecting. And there was no time for my husband. And I was super high strung and stressed out and anxious. And I mean, I hear myself talking about it now, and I can literally put myself back in that space and think, ooh, that was a terrible way of being. And I operated in that space for a very long time. And I was constantly striving to do more, thinking that it was going to fill me up or ground me in some way. So achieving more, taking on more responsibility, striving for more accomplishments and achievements. And that didn't happen at all. In fact, quite the opposite happened. And I just felt really disconnected from who I wanted to be and who I was. And I just was stuck in this space of work, strive, push, grind. Yeah. So it was like drifting through my real life, like what life was supposed to be, and having no real connection to self or anybody else for that matter.
Okay. So like skimming on the surface at high speed.
Yeah.
So maybe a person who would look to outsiders as a person who's living a really full, rich life, like doing all the things and having all the experiences and having the title and making the money and doing that, would you say that that's maybe how it looked to the outside?
Oh yeah. I think some people, I almost wore it like a badge of honor. I don't know how you do all that you do. Right. And that fueled me even more. I mean, I was the vice president of an ad agency. I had a nice cushy salary. I was traveling, both for work and then trying to, travel and give my family experiences. And my husband traveled a lot at the time. And so I was holding down the fort at home. And yeah, I mean, numerous people would say, I don't know how you do all that you do. And I was like, it's no problem. Yeah. I can do this all day long, every day. No big deal. But deep down inside, I was thinking, I'm dying a slow death over here. Like, I can't keep doing this. I don't want to be Superwoman anymore. But I didn't know any other way. And so I just kept doing
it. I mean, even I remember saying that to you. So for anyone who's listening to this, Stacy and I are also good friends, 25 years or something at this point. So I know you And I would sometimes say, and I am also a person who is an overachiever and sort of crash and burn because of it. But I would look at you and be like, I literally don't know, not just like, wow, good job, but I would be like, I literally don't know how you do it all. What for you was like the turning point? So there's true you is here, and over the years you've been chasing something and it's really kind of taken you away from true, authentic, whole self, and you stay there for years, would you say? Very far away? Years.
Yes.
Okay. So something must have happened at some point, and sometimes it's one big thing, sometimes it's lots of little things, but what was a catalyst or a turning point for you that made you realize I am far away and I need to head back?
I think it's a culmination of two or three. I'll give you two or three things, but there was one big moment. Leading up to this big moment, obviously we were in COVID and that was a whole nother situation. And from that experience, from COVID on, I remember my kids coming in to my office while I was working and I would snap. I would just snap at them. And to this day, you know that I hold the space between 2:30 and 3:00 open on my calendar every day because that's when my youngest daughter comes in. And I do that because I started recognizing I wasn't giving anything, not a nod, not a moment of attention, nothing to my children. And what I did have left over was like the worst of me at the end of the day. And I started recognizing this and thinking, wow, what a crappy way of being. Like, I don't want to be that mom or wife for that matter, or friend or daughter or any other role that I was playing in my life. And so I think I started recognizing that. And I, every morning I journal and I would sit with that. I would just sit and think, God, I don't like this. I was literally holding a mirror to my face saying, this is ugly. Like, I don't like who you are. I don't like who you've become. And so I already had turned a light on. And I think things started to shine a little brighter once I did that. So my oldest daughter has some mental health challenges, and those were starting to dial up, and I couldn't find space to help her. And I knew that my kids just needed me more than I was able to give. And then it took me going on to this big moment that I had. It took me going on this, I call it a retreat with some girlfriends of mine. There were 6 of us, and we went to this spa-like retreat. Was a life-changing experience for me because I really took the moment to pause in my life and be very introspective. And I went to this workshop, and I don't even remember what this workshop was about, but the man said one thing to me. And he said, well, to the group of us, he said, I really want you to focus on celebration. Like, you should be only going and staying where you are celebrated. And if you're not celebrated, you need to get out. And in that moment, I just paused and I said, okay, my husband continues to celebrate me, despite what a terrible person I've become in terms of a mother and a wife. My kids and my husband continue to celebrate me. My friends celebrate me. My mom and dad continue to celebrate me. And there was this moment in my career that I was thinking, wow, I am so not celebrated there. No matter how much I do, no matter how much I strive, no matter how much new business I bring in, no matter if I work 24 hours in a day or 4 hours in a day, I'm still not celebrated. And I came home from that experience and I said, this is what has to go. This has to go. This experience of this almost 20-year career in the world of advertising had to go.
So my next question was going to be, what did you know you needed to do? And you just answered that.
Yeah. And I can't get rid of my children, and I can't get rid of my husband. I can't get rid of my friends, my family, or the daily responsibilities of life. But I think why I came to that, and I liked my job. At least I thought I liked my job. But what I realize now is my job provided a comfort zone for me, a comfort zone of what I knew, how to strive, look for accomplishments. I basically was attaching title advances and financial gains and what I could accomplish. That's what I was attaching to my worth. Like, how valued am I? If I can achieve this, I'll be valued. So my worth became about achieving and striving more. And I would much rather put that energy towards achieving and striving more in my family life than at a business.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. So on the outside, you do this particular professional path I'm on right now. That has to change. What did you know then that you needed to do internally?
Well, that was a very scary realization that I was going to take my very cushy salary and go to my husband and say, hey, honey, I'm not going to work anymore right now. I have no idea what this looks like. I don't know what this means in the future, but this is what I know I need. And no longer being able to attach to what I was attaching to for worth, right? So what am I? If I don't have that, what am I? And so that was all a very, very scary space to step into for me. But I knew that I needed to do it, and I needed to do it quickly, and I needed to rip a Band-Aid off. Because if I allowed the situation to trickle, or even if I went down part-time, I had been with this particular organization for so long, and I knew the inner workings, and they knew me and my work ethic. I knew that if I didn't make in a very abrupt and permanent departure, that I would get sucked back in, because again, my value was attached to my accomplishments and my achievements. And if I wasn't getting that from a part-time status or as a consultant for them, that I knew I'd jump back in to try to achieve it. So intrinsically, I knew I needed to fully depart and recreate my worth.
It reminds me so much of the idea of, beginning treatment for some sort of addiction, that with most addictions, you can't just dabble or moderate. You have to relearn how to do life, lots of parts of life, without this thing that has been a security blanket.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what you're saying, is that you needed to enter treatment and make a resolution that that way of doing work had to go completely.
Yeah. And when I closed that door, which also was a very hard conversation, because after working almost 20 years with that agency, it was a small family like environment. That was a hard conversation to have too. And they had no idea where it was coming from. And after I closed that door, I really had to sit in the space of discomfort and say, well, who am I? Like, well, who and what am I? Like, what am I supposed to do every day? And I remember doing all kinds of things around the house. Like, I would just fill the day up with like, well, let's do laundry, let's paint a wall, let's, do fun things, fun projects. And part of it was exploration, but also some of it was trying to almost numb the fact that I had no idea who I was. And I just remember being super busy and operating at this high functioning space that I didn't know how to just stop. I didn't know. So I just filled it with busyness here in my life. And I think I remember having a conversation with you about this.
Thinking about that. I called you. I'm like, what are you doing? You're like, I don't know. I'm just floating. Like,
yes, I was still floating.
Yeah.
And I had wild ideas, and I still have wild ideas, but wild ideas about programs I was going to go back and get certified for, or college courses I was going to go back and take. And I kept pausing and saying, is that really what I want to do? Am I trying to fill a space? Is that really, am I trying to fill my worth back up? Or can I be worthy just in who I am? And so I guess the biggest comeback is that my worth is here with me already. I didn't need anything else to kind of tell me that or to fill me up in that space, but I needed to discover my worth again. I needed to learn to be a mom from a different angle. I needed to learn to be a wife from a different perspective. And so it's only been a year, and well, it was March, I don't know, I can't do the math right now, but it's been a year and a half roughly. And I'm still learning, and I'm still growing, and I'm still having to put things in check and say, oh, nope, that's you trying to go attach yourself to a piece of accomplishment so that you can feel worthy.
Mhm.
So it's a daily practice for me.
Yeah, I think that's how the comeback is. I mean, I think one thing that felt important for me anyway to convey out loud is that a comeback isn't like a destination. You're not like, oh, I'm back, good, all set, I've done all my work and it's all behind me and I'm set. It's just sort of this continual journey, sort of 2 steps forward, 1 step back. I am curious what, if you could describe, like, so clearly this has taken a lot of inner work that started with just some open space to even figure out like who you were without work and what you were supposed to be doing in the world. Are you able to describe like what the inner work is for you? Like, what is the life's work that you have to keep doing and keep doing and keep doing that gets you further and further, no, closer and closer to true self?
So my work is I need space. I
Mhm.
definitely need, I can get caught up in the rat race and the day-to-day grind. And if I feel like I'm literally hopping from project to project to project, or kid pickup, you know, whatever the agenda is for the day, if I'm so laser focused and like in that space, I know, like, raise the flag. Like, this is, you're not in your body, you're not connected. And so for me, the work is to make sure that I carve out space for myself.
Mhm.
And that typically looks like mornings. I like it quiet and nobody else is awake. And so I'll do a lot of journaling in the morning. And then I also have to have a constant reminder of the way my children's faces are looking back at me. And so how I approach them and their response to me tells me if I am still in the work. And so those are the mirrors that are the scariest and the most palatable to feel, but they're probably the most important.
Is the quiet space for the daily journaling, and you're kind of monitoring things by paying attention to the energy that your children give back to you.
Yep, exactly.
Because they are likely reflecting back whatever energy you're giving to them.
That's right.
Oh, that's so good. Okay, so 1 or 2 more questions. What keeps you anchored to doing the work? Meaning, what is the big thing? What is the something greater that keeps you doing the work, even when you want to drift back into old ways and doing? What's the something greater that you tie all this to?
That my purpose in life is to be something greater. I
Mm.
know there's this curiosity. I don't know what it is yet, and I'm still on the quest for it, but I know that my life was meant for something great. I know that. And so what keeps me anchored to that is the knowing that I'm supposed to be up to big things. And those big things are, you know, not financial gains or big fancy titles. Those are bigger in terms of the impact I have on the world. And so staying anchored to that knowing, it's a little frustrating sometimes too, because I don't know what it is that I'm supposed to be doing yet, but that knowing and that curiosity keeps me anchored.
Yeah. And so if you slip back into the do, you don't actually make space or free up energy to do the big thing. You're doing a lot of things, but you're not doing the big thing.
Yep, exactly right.
Okay. So what about this whole process? Like, what has been the most courageous part? I remember the other day we were talking about this connection of this story to energy, connection, and courage. And you realized that you'd actually, on the day you left the ad agency, written a post about courage, which is ironic because you ended up working with our organization and we focus a lot on courage. But what has required in this comeback for you the most courage, or what has courage looked like for you?
Courage has looked like being selfish, but being selfish by redefining that word. So focusing on self rather than acting out of a space of selfishness. I'm lucky and fortunate to have the support of my family in this space. But it took a ton of courage for me to go to them and to say, I need this. I need to focus on myself. Something is off. Something is not right. I am not the best version of myself. And all I want to give to this world is the best version of myself. And so for me to be selfish and take our family out of a financial stability space, to take time away from family so that I can have the space for the big things that I know that I'm supposed to be up to. Those are the things that require the most courage for me. So it's really standing in a space of selfishness. But like I said, it's redefining what that word means. It's really, it's about being with self.
Yeah. And the acts that we define as courageous inherently require that we have to walk through fear. Like if we didn't have to walk through fear, it wouldn't be courageous. What was the fear that you had to walk through in order to go to Mark and say, this is what I need to do? What was the fear you had to walk through?
Well, there were several components, and without getting into the whole backstory of that, the biggest fear was, how would our family have to operate now without the financial support of my cushy salary? And how will my husband process that information? And knowing him like I do, the fear was, he's going to try to do more in his own career to make up for that, which means, well, now we're really off balance. So I'm going to gain my life back, but he's going to have no life.
Yeah.
And so, how we balance that was really something very scary. And I think the other fear was having to face the fact that I have no idea who I was without it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, more so than anything else, I knew we would get through the financial aspect of it because, I just knew that this is what I needed to do. I felt it in my whole body. I just knew I had to do it, and something that felt so right couldn't be wrong. Right. And I knew from a financial perspective, while it was scary, that we would figure it out. Still, hard to have that conversation. But the biggest fear was, now I have to face, who am I, like that, and redefine that to the world of everybody who knows me. So how will people think of me now if I'm not superwoman accomplishing 6 million things before the hour of 10 a.m. right?
Yes.
What will their perspective be, and how will that shift? And can I be comfortable with myself?
What will I discover about myself, and what will people think?
Yep.
Oh. Okay. So last question, looking back on these past few years, what do you want other people to know? If there are people listening who are at that point we described as feeling very disconnected from true self, what do you want them to know?
It's a very good question. I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is stand in your truth, right? And it sounds so cliche, but I think I knew all along. I mean, I knew whenever I got a raise, it didn't fill me up like I thought it was. Or when I got the vice president title, it didn't fill me up. And I knew deep down I didn't realize it then, but I know now it's because I wasn't standing in my truth. That's not what I needed. And so really paying attention to what's important to you. Like, what is really important to you? And I have to leave it there and say, stand in your truth and identify what is really important to you, and use that as your inner compass.
Yes. Once you know what's important to you, and once you know what your truth is, you move in that direction, whatever that looks like, even if it feels hard and scary.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing your story with us. You got something else? What?
Yes. I want to say one thing, because we're going to share this. And now I work for Vital Work. And we haven't talked about how that came about.
Let's talk about it. How did that come about?
I'm not even sure how to have this conversation, but again, I just said, stand in your truth and use that as your guide, your inner compass. And, Beck, you approached me about 6 months into my, what I call retirement, which was really just my inquiry to know who I was, and asked me if I was, ready. And the answer was no, I wasn't ready. And you knew that. But there was a calling that I also felt around this work because I feel like I had just experienced it. Right. And so we talk about burnout and we talk about, having courage and personal energy. And we talk about friction and, all the things that happen in the workplace. And I had I'd lived all of that, but I also was having this crash and burn internal, state going on too. And so there was just something, pulling me towards this work. So I don't believe in coincidences. I believe that this was an opportunity that the universe was trying to tell me, like, hey, this is more of the work you need to be doing. And so now I'm educating myself on the work that we do in workplaces and how that could be so beneficial for me during that time. If I had those tools, if I had those resources, if I could have shined a light on that truth of mine sooner, I could have done a lot of different things, but I could have been in a different space sooner. And so I'm grateful to be here at Vital Work. And I will say that Beck, you were gracious enough to realize that I wasn't ready to go back into the corporate world and work full time. And so you're like, you're not working full time. And so it's been this beautiful partnership in terms of allowing me some growth opportunity and education around the specific work that I just had come through, while also, sinking my teeth into something that's really important to me. So I'm grateful to be here.
I will just say that the catalyst, so there are so many pieces that came together for us. So the catalyst for that was that, we had decided that we needed someone with leadership capacity that could help us grow the business with a particular focus on, marketing and business development. And we talked about that internally for a couple of months. And then all of a sudden it was like, boom, oh my God, wait a minute. That's what Stacy does. And, when you're friends, you sort of know what each other does for work, but you don't really know the details. So I actually went to your LinkedIn profile and I was like, yes, this is what she does. But my hesitation was, I know that you were in recovery. So, and I also know how alluring work is for you. But at the same time, not only did I feel like, okay, she's the right professional fit, I know that your journey in life is to get closer and closer to true self. And those are the type of people that we bring onto our team, because you really have to be on the journey of coming back to self in order to do this work. I mean, even if you're not facilitating programs, in order to understand the language, in order to talk about it with clients, you have to be on your own personal journey. And so that piece has been really fun, because I feel like the work we do, I feel like the journey you're on is a wonderful fit for the work we do and vice versa. And then also to know that your prior work experience helps you understand some of the problems that we're trying to solve for, which never even occurred to me. But the universe has our back. That's all I can say. The universe.
And I wanted to bring that part of the story together. One, because I was in recovery and here I am working and sharing my comeback story. But two, to say that it was a moment that I really had to check my ego, right? That's when I had to be in the work. When you came to me and offered me and you saw me and saw what I was capable of, those are the moments that I would fall to pray.
Yes.
Right? Those are the moments that weighed on me. And I had to pause and I had to really think about what that experience would mean. And still there's some opportunities you've presented to me that I'm not ready for, like facilitating. That's definitely something in my wheelhouse, but I know why I would be doing it. And it would be not for the purpose that I need to be doing it in. And so I've kept those things at a distance. So again, I'll come back to just stand in your truth. Once you're willing to acknowledge and see your truth, it doesn't go away, right? Like it may fade, but you know where the North Star is.
Yes.
And so I may deviate to the west a little bit. And then I'm thinking, oh, nope, wait, come back. And I'm able to make decisions based on that, because I took the opportunity to see my truth and to stand in it. And now when I feel myself deviate, when I start deviating, I feel myself deviating, right? So I can make the decisions based on staying to the true north.
Yep. Once you know your North Star, you can't ever unknow it. Yeah.
That's right.
You're the best for sharing your story. I love it. There's nothing better than coming back to self, and thank you.
Thank you.